Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Trades Talk Tuesday, and I am your host, Pop Culture Mechanic. I'd just like to say welcome, everyone. And today, before we get any farther along, I would like to go back to the last episode where I was talking about your personal protective equipment. I managed to forget one of the most important ones, and that would be this: hearing protection. I can't stress enough to you how important this is. Hearing protection, you might think that, I don't need it, but it's better that you do use this, as it will help you later on in life. There is different kinds too. Everyone just thinks maybe earplugs or ear muffs. But as you can see here, there's ear muffs, and there's pros and cons to both of those. The pros of ear muffs: good protection, reusable, easy for on and off, and there's a radio option that allows you to listen to sports or music. But they won't allow you to do that at on the job site. You won't be able to listen to music or anything, because how are you supposed to hear any of the dangers of around the site if you're busy listening to music? The cons for earmuffs are they may not fit well over glasses, a higher initial price, facial hair may affect fit, and uncomfortable in hot environments. Okay, fair enough. There's the formable earplugs, and those offer good protection, lowest initial price. They're comfortable and can be worn with glasses and earrings. The cons: easy to lose, disposable, more time to insert, and requires clean hands for insertion. And hello, Blaine. Good to see you. You love the electric muffs with foamies. Yeah, they can do a good job for you, that's for sure. The next ones they show here: push-in earplugs. These almost kind of look like earbuds. The pros of those are low initial price, easy on-off, reusable, and use stem for quick and easy insertion. The cons, though: lower protection. I've never used these styles, so I'm not sure about that, but it does say lower protection. Must have a correct size. They're easy to lose and can become uncomfortable after long periods of time. Okay, so I've never had to use those style, but I know there's other ones out there that you can use as well, such as these ones here. Custom molded. In shooting, a lot of people ignore the way your ear bone can get hit with shock, even with in-ear. Triple baffle are pretty good. Okay. Yeah, you definitely, I would think with the sound or the impact of the decibels that you get out of a shooting range or something like that, it would just really hammer you good. When the reusable foamy ones came up, you switched immediately. Yeah, there you go. Reusable foamies. And it's not just the high impact sharp sounds. It's the low sounds over a longer duration, because that's how they measure your exposure to noise, is duration and decibels. So it can be a sharp sound over a short time, but then it can also be a lower sound over a longer amount of time that will still affect your hearing. And like these ones you can get here, the custom molded ones, they will make those for you. So they come to your work site, or you go to their place of business, and they will put some gel in your ear, and it will just mold it to the inside of your ear. And those will be yours and only yours. No one else can use them because their ears are not the same shape as yours. So those are a good option too to go if you want to have something that's more comfortable. Canal caps. I've heard of these, but I've never used them. Hey, Godzillionaire. Nice to see you. You're a fan of the Christmas tree earplug? Yeah, very festive, right? As long as they do their job. But these canal caps, they're on a band worn under the chin, over the head, behind the neck, can be put on and taken off quickly. They're not as comfortable as other devices and not as much protection. Yeah, so whenever it tells you it's not as much protection, it's not really a good thing. You want to go with your maximum amount of protection for your ears. And I can speak to this because year after years of being in the trade and all that, I do have a bit of tinnitus in my left ear. So if you don't know what tinnitus is, it's like a dull ringing in your ear. So I do have a bit of hearing loss. It's not super terrible, but it's noticeable for me. Made you go check. Use the Surefire EP7 for in-ear. Okay. As long as it's the good stuff and it takes the decibels down. Because it's I can't believe I missed this on the last stream, but yes, hearing protection is one of the most important things, especially because later on, with age, your hearing starts to get a little bit go down in quality. So you have to have a control over how much you hurt your hearing, then use your earplugs. Because at least you can control that. And yeah, there's lots of them to use. Noise reduction of almost 30 decibels. Just don't call the tinnitus helpline. The phone just keeps... Godzilla here. That's some good stuff, all right. Okay. So yeah, all different kinds, and I really have knuckled down on using them whenever I can, even when I'm using compressed air and such. Just that high screech of the air can really hurt. So yeah, do what you can. Save your hearing. You'll be worth it in the long run. So now that I've covered that, today I was going to get into tools. And not just any, there's an array of tools. You have your measuring tools, you have your hand tools, you have power tools, you have machine tools, just to name a few. So when you're out there in the trade, people are going to think, first thing, they're going to think hand tools. Okay, hand tools. Hammers. As you can see, there's different kinds. You got your claw hammer for pulling out nails and such. Your sledgehammer. You got a mallet. And those could be soft-faced or brass, or depending on if you have to avoid making sparks or anything like that. You're going to have a bunch of screwdrivers. You're going to have your flathead. You're going to have a Phillips. You're going to have a Robertson. You're going to have a Torx in some instances. You'll have your wrenches, whether it's an open end or box end, or whether it's going to be an adjustable or a pipe wrench, anything like that. So you'll see those out there. And you can go brand name, but as long as you don't get tools that are very made in China, you should be okay. Try to go with some name brand stuff, but you don't have to go high end like Snap-on or Mac or stuff like that. Unless they have, the only reason you go to those guys is if they have something specialty that you need. But if you can get a Craftsman or Mastercraft or Husky or something like that, you should be doing okay. There's chisels, so you're gonna have all sorts of chisels, whether it's a Cape chisel or a wood chisel or a chisel for taking down smashing a bolt, separating a bolt from a nut. You're all blue Makita. I like Makita. They'd make good stuff. And you're a DeWalt. There you go. Yeah, anybody Ridgid? Ridgid, anybody? No? Milwaukee? I personally, I think Milwaukee's overpriced, but I've used my fair share of Makita power tools, and they've put up, where I used to work, they put up with a lot of abuse, and they came out working all the time. So I've got good stuff to say about that. You're gonna encounter like all sorts of types of files, from your bastard cut file to your finishing smooth, your mill smooth file, your triangle, your round file, and make sure to keep those clean as well. Your file, you want it to be get a file card and always clean your file so that you're not scratching up the work that you're trying to file down. You have a drill driver Ridgid set you've inherited. There you go. Nice. I like Ridgid. Ridgid is good stuff. What else are we going to encounter out there? Some pliers. So there's going to be all kinds of different kinds of pliers. You got your linesman pliers. You got your side cutters. You got your needle nose. You got your locking jaw. Some people refer to them as vice grip, but Vice is a brand name. Yeah, and once again, pick ones that are handy for you and what trade you're in. Different trades are going to want to use different types of tools. You know, maybe if you're an electrician, you're going to want your tools insulated. So you're going to go with maybe some Klein brand or somebody, or Greenlee, someplace that deals with more electricity than anything else. You're going to encounter different kinds of levels, believe it or not. There's like the level you can see right now on screen. That's just your typical level you use for like leveling up some carpentry or something like that. But then there's ones with mag bases, and there's ones that are line levels, so you hang them from like some piano wire. There's other ones that are machine levels, and with that you can level a piece of machinery you're installing to within a couple thou with just a level. That's how accurate it is. So it's quite incredible. I've had to use one before, and it was pretty neat to use. You're going to encounter your hand saws and your hacksaws. When you're using your hacksaw, just make sure you've got the right blade in there, and it's in the right direction too. You always want the teeth to point away from you, because that's how hacksaws cut. They cut on the forward stroke. Then there's a big ass framing level. Yes, exactly. I think I have one where I am now. It's 6 feet long, and it does okay for what it needs to do. An air bubble in 2 lines isn't precise. They can be if you buy the right one. But just make sure your hacksaw blade's on correctly, and make sure it's the right TPI for what you need, or teeth per inch. So the harder your material or the thinner it is, the more teeth you want in contact with it. So you can buy, I think you can get up to 32 teeth per inch, which is very, very fine. So that's going to be for your hard stuff, like your stainless, or it's going to be really thin stuff like your gauge plate. The smaller the number, so if you start getting to like 24 or 18 teeth per inch, then you're getting into your softer materials, your aluminum, your wood, your not as hard steels, your mild steel. So that's what's going to be like when you're looking for a hacksaw. And get one with a proper adjustment on the front. Turn it, tighten up the blade, get a nice, comfortable handle. And remember, when you're hacksawing too, it's not a race. The faster you go with a hacksaw, the faster you're going to wreck the blade. It's going to heat up. One side of the teeth are going to shear off, and then you're going to start making a big curve in your cut. So if you want a nice straight cut, just a nice 1 stroke per second as you're going, and make sure and always keep it straight up and down. Try to follow, if you've scribed a line, follow that line. Try to go a nice even pace, and don't race, and you'll have an excellent cut. So that's those basic tools. There's also measuring tools. Here's another graphic of some of these. Your basic straight edge rule, which every shop should have one, a nice metal one for you to use. Then you'll have calipers, outside, inside, and dividers. These are all for transferring measurements. So what you'll do is you'll use these on whatever you're measuring, and then you'll grab your vernier caliper or your micrometer, and you'll use that on the calipers to make your measurement. If it's too difficult to get your calipers or micrometers into that spot that you're trying to measure. And hermaphrodite calipers, from what I can remember, is they'll have one leg that goes on the inside and one leg that goes on the outside. And I believe that's for harder to reach areas that you can't measure normally with your inside or outside ones. Basic tin snips come in handy. Every shop will have some. You never know. They'll come in, if you get the WIS brand, WISS, they will come in left-handed, right-handed, and straight. So you get, they'll be color-coded as well. And so like green will be left, yellow is straight, and red is right. So if you're working with sheet metal, gauge metal, and such, you'll be able to make those corners a lot nicer looking by using one that's, if it's a right hand, if it goes to the right, then you'll be able to cut a nicer right-handed shape that you'll need. Twist drills. Yeah, very handy. Mostly fitting in drill presses and such. Some will be tapered, some will be straight shank. The taper will be a Morse taper if you're using that big of a drill bit in a drill press. And the straight shank should fit it'll even fit in a hand drill. So you can use those in the drill press as well. And learning how to sharpen those is quite an art. So if you can be a good drill sharpener, you will make yourself very valuable to the crew, and you'll make the jobs easier on yourself. There's nothing worse than trying to drill a hole with a dull drill bit. It'll squeal, it'll walk all over the place. It'll take you 10 times longer to get your job done. So if you can learn how to sharpen a twist drill properly and give it a nice sharp edge, you'll be further ahead in the game. I know people might be like, oh, just go get a new one. Sometimes you don't have that option. Sometimes your place doesn't have an extra drill bit lying around. And if you order one, it's going to take either a day or two to get to you. So learning how to sharpen it might sound funny, but it'll help you in the long run. A reamer, use those maybe a few times, and all it does is make you're running a machined hole. After you've put a drill through it, your reamer will take it up to that next size to give you a more precise fit. So that when you put whatever it is in there, whether it's a bolt or a, what would you call it? Like a key. If you have your shaft to go in there, then that'll make it more precise, and you won't have it flopping around or being a very sloppy one. So using a reamer is good for your precision hole drilling. We talked about pliers. We talked about chisels. Scrapers. Scrapers are very important. They get used a lot, whether you're scraping up a gasket or just trying to remove debris on a machine face. You have to be careful because this will scratch the machine face. Yes, Godzillionaire, reamers are good for dowel pinholes. Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. You learned a shorthand name for diagonal cutting pliers that I have to stop myself from saying in public. Diagonal pliers. We just call them side cutters. But yes, scrapers, very important. You be careful when you're using them on machine surfaces. We talked about hacksaw. The hand drill. I don't think this gets used much anymore. Unless you're in a spot where you can't get any kind of electricity, or if it's a explosive environment, I would think you're going to always try to, you're always going to try to use a cordless drill. Vernier calipers. So learning how to read measuring tools is important, because you have your tape measure, which is the most basic of measuring tools. I'm pretty sure every shop will have a tape measure, and they can be from anywhere from 12 feet to 25 feet long, 3/4 or a half inch wide to 1 inch wide. You're going to want to learn how to read them properly. If it comes down to you having to count the little ticks on the between the numbers, I mean, so be it. But you better be accurate with that as much as you can. The hand crank drill is for shop wall decor. Yeah, it is now. I'll agree with that. It's definitely a neat art piece to look at now. But do yourself a favor, learn how to read those measuring tools, especially tape measures. And nowadays, where did I see it? I saw a tape measure. It's got a laser on it. This one here. A laser tape. So maybe you don't even have, all you do is you push the button and I guess it shines the laser out there, and whatever it hits, it gives you that reading. So we're getting pretty high tech now, just in tape measures. And some of them on the tip of the tape measure will have magnets, which will hold it to the, if it's metal, it'll hold it to that piece of metal while you take your measurement. So you no longer need two people to hang on to a tape measure. And always look for one that has a lot of standout. What standout is as the longest it can go without collapsing. So if you get one with like 8 feet of standout, I think that's pretty good. Because you're usually trying to measure stuff up in the air and it's falling over on you. So try to get one that's pretty robust in that regard. For vernier calipers and micrometers, so your vernier will measure up to like a thousandth of an inch. That's pretty good. It's made for quick and easy reading for your precision. Micrometers, you can get up to 10 thousandths of an inch. So that's 4 decimal places that you're working with a micrometer, and it's much more accurate because it has a threaded rod inside here. So it can be a little more, whereas the vernier caliper is just sliding along the rail here. And it takes a bit to read these as well. When you're out reading vernier calipers. Yeah, this looks like a good shot. So here you go. So on the right is vernier caliper, and it has millimeters and inches on it. I believe the top is millimeters. Yeah, and the bottom is imperial. So to read this, there's that 0 mark on the bottom scale, and you line that up. Whatever you're trying to read here is that opening is that it has open right now. So it's not quite. Yeah, it's not quite an inch. Yeah, it's trying to read it here. The one thing is that you have to try to line up the lines to get an accurate. So once you find 2 lines that line up on the bottom scale and on the main scale, that's where you take your reading from. Whereas the micrometer on the left-hand side here, you have to read the barrel. And this one is 0 to 25 millimeter. So that would be, I read 84 millimeters. No, sorry, 8.4 millimeters. Hold on, 5.34 millimeters. Yeah, that's it. Oh, I'm surprised I don't say vernier the French way. Yeah, I could. I've heard it pronounced both ways, vernier and vernier. But yes, your more accurate will always be your micrometer. Okay, and what do we got up next here? For layout, these are your friends. Scribers are your friends for layout. They'll give you always give you a good sharp line to follow. Usually use that in conjunction with your tri-square. Use your square, your scriber. Use, if you can, use some layout die. That'll help it show up better for you. And then you're going to use your punch, which is usually at a 30-degree angle. It'll be a lot sharper. For your initial finding of marking for your punch, you'll use that one. And then afterward, you'll come up with your center punch, which has a 90-degree tip on it. And that'll be for when you're going to drill a hole. You give it the old center punch, and then you're ready to go. Naturally, you're going to use your ball peen hammer on that. And those will come in different sizes, from 8 ounce all the way up to 16 and 24 ounce. You can get some pretty big ball peen hammers. I don't think I've ever used a cross peen hammer before, or a straight peen. That might be more for in the metal shaping trades. The soft-faced hammer, yes, you will use that, especially if you don't want to mar the surface of anything that you're working on. Always use yourself a soft-faced or a rubber mallet. And I think what they do with some of the mallets is they fill them with lead shot, so it'll give you that weight that you need, and it'll also be like a dead blow, so it'll hit and stop. That the action of those. The action of the shot inside the head actually helps you just give it a hit and it stops you. We talked about the files. We talked about the flathead screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver and vice grips. Allen wrenches. There you go. So in some instances, well, especially when you're working with bearings and locking them in place, or if you're working with tapered hubs that hang on to shivs on the shafts, you'll have it'll be held in by an Allen key, or an Allen screw will be held on, and you'll have to use the Allen wrench to get it off. And there's imperial size like SAE and metric, and you got to be careful because sometimes they'll fool you as to which one's inside there. And sometimes they're so stuck so hard in the threads that you may even break your Allen wrench, or at least bend it. Especially for the smaller ones, they really don't take a lot of torque to bend them out of shape. So just be careful with that. Sometimes what guys will do is they'll put wrenches on them too to get that extra bit of torque on there, but that's gonna bend them or break them too. The adjustable wrench, try to stay away from this thing. It's only good in an emergency or if you don't have anything else around. Lots of times it'll make your cap screws or your nuts, it'll make them round. It won't get a good grip. It might even slip off on you. And then you're gonna end up getting hurt. And that's the last thing you want to do is get hurt at work. If you can also, like I said before, find yourself a good brand name one. Some of them you can turn the little thumb screw and you can feel it it has a little detente where it'll hold it in place. Those are probably the best ones you want to get because at least you know it won't back off on you, whereas other ones that are loose and everything like that, they'll start to back off on you, and it's just an exercise in frustration trying to use that thing. What else? Socket wrenches. Obviously, socket wrench goes with your sockets. And sockets, they'll come in 6-point, 12-point. Personally, I like 6-point better than 12-point. I think 12-point, they're too thin, I think. You might slip off, not get a good grab onto it. There's also there's impact sockets as well, which are different than your regular sockets. There'll be a black color, and they will be a lot thicker, but the material will also be a little softer. And that's just so that it can survive the impact from the impact gun. When you're using that, if you use a regular socket on an impact gun, you could potentially crack it and it will explode on you, and that is bad news. You don't want tempered steel coming at you at high speed, because it ruins everybody's day. So yeah, always use the right socket for the right application. Don't use don't use regular sockets on an impact gun, because it will could lead to an injury. Box wrenches, I never had to deal. I don't think I've ever seen a box wrench before. Open end, pretty common. Most of the times there's a closed end and an open end on them. And I always try to use the closed end as much as possible. That way it shouldn't slip off on you. Although, story for you. We were out and we were changing some gaskets in some flanges. Some flange gaskets need changing, so we were out there doing that. And the one fellow I was with, he grabbed a wrench that he thought was the right size, and it turned out it was like a size bigger than what he needed. It fit on the bolts for the studs, or it fit on the nut for the studs, but just barely. And he put the power to it, and when he did, the wrench slipped. The way he was pulling it, it slipped, and he tumbled backwards, tripped over a pump, and landed on his back. So there was a little bit of an incident, a little bit of a write-up for that, because he went and and reported it like he was supposed to. But it came down to it being his fault for not having the right wrench. So he used the wrong wrench at so make sure you always double check. Is this the right wrench? Is this the right size? It can feel like it, but you got to make sure. Otherwise, you're going to end up, ass over tea kettle. And your bench vise. Every shop should have a bench vise. Whether it's a, 4-inch one, 6-inch, 8-inch. Whether it's swivel or non-swivel. And make sure it's a good brand. A good brand of vise will be from Britain. I know there's one called Record. They're good. If you're going to get stuff from China, it's not going to last. It's going to be garbage, and it'll give up on you when you need it the most. All there is to it. You're a tradesman. You don't want your tools to give up on you. You don't want your cheapness in tools to be something that haunts you for not being a good tradesman. Pay the extra for good tools, good quality. Then you don't have to worry about them giving up on you, breaking, whatever it is. You need that. You need the quality. What else for hand tools? Talked about quite a bit. Oh, these are handy. Gear wrenches. If you can get a set of gear wrenches, do it. They are excellent as far as getting into tight places, and they have the speed of a ratchet. So you have yourself a tight place to get into. You don't want to spend, a half hour trying to tighten up a nut on a bolt. Throw the old gear wrench on there. You can speed away, and that's the good stuff too. What else is something we use? What do we got here? Torque wrenches. Be careful with your hammers. Remember, don't ever strike two hammers together. That is a recipe for disaster. They can shatter, believe it or not. You got two hardened tool steel coming together. You are just asking for trouble. Okay. Well, so we did measuring tools. We did hand tools. Next is power tools. So power tools, they can be corded or uncorded or battery operated. Obviously, corded's going to give you more power. It's not going to give out on you. You're not going to have to worry about it dying on you. The battery operated ones, take them wherever you need to go. Do your job. You just have to remember to take a charger with you. Have a source of power to charge it. Or if you buy a big enough battery, you shouldn't have to worry about it. But most of them are pretty good now. They've moved on from their 18 volt. I think they're up to 24 volt now. And 5 amp hour. I mean, you're going to have plenty of power. It's gonna last you for a long time, depending on what you're doing, I guess. But there's all sorts of things. You've got your reciprocating saw, you've got your grinder, you've got a drill, you've got an impact, skill saw, or a circular saw, as it were, a cutoff, and that might be a sander. Looks like it's got sanding. Yeah, it looks like it's got sanding pads, or a leaf blower. So you've definitely got a myriad of cordless tools you can get nowadays. So yeah, some bigger tools with double battery for a 36 volt system. Yeah, there you go. I mean, you put in double batteries, it's going to last you even longer. So yes, power tools. Like I say, you can even get hammer drills, which are good for putting anchors into concrete. You want to drill into concrete, get yourself a hammer drill. They're usually pretty good. You got to watch out. If you hit a rebar, then you're in trouble because it'll grab your bit, and you can't cut through that rebar. So you usually get stuck on it. Or if you hit it on the side and you're drilling, then it might get stuck. Battery-powered work lights are awesome. Yeah. Well, especially with LED technology now, you can get a lot more time out of them and a lot brighter light. I know that whenever one of our metal halide ones or halogen or anything like that in the shop, if it goes out, the electrician swaps it out for an LED light. He's like, yep, okay, that one's out or broken or whatever. Okay, not going to replace the ballast or anything like that. We'll just replace the whole thing with an LED. Here we go. The longevity of those is incredible too. They They just last and last and last. It's great. What else do we got here? Hammer drills, corded or cordless grinders. Grinders are so versatile, right? For grinding down material and such. Or if you need to use a cutoff wheel, you just throw a cutoff wheel on there. Come in various sizes, right? 4.5-inch diameter grinding wheel, cutting wheel. Or a 5-inch is they're very common. 4.5, 5-inch, very common. You get up to the 7-inch and 9-inch, you're getting into big stuff, which is all right if you can wield it. Because a lot of these, when they start getting into the bigger diameters, you're going to have a hard time hanging on to it. It's going to be a little bit unruly for you. So just be aware of that. And yeah. And then you got your cordless ones, of course. You just got to make sure that you got enough battery power. That's all there is to it. But that's for the grinders. I'm trying to think what else. I guess you could use it, or there's buffing attachments you can put onto your grinder. You got to shine up the old car. 9-inch cutting wheel sounds like you should just grab the right size saw. You'd be surprised, Blaine. I've been out there and I've needed to cut through something that's I don't have a bandsaw. I don't have a hacksaw to use. Don't want to use a torch. So you just grab your 7-inch or 9-inch one and you just fire it up, and it makes a lot of sparks, but it makes a short work of it. But here's something cool I want to show you guys if you haven't seen it before. It's a metal cutting skill saw. So this is a metal cutting skill saw. So I've used one of these before, and it's just like just like you'd use for cutting a piece of plywood or whatever, except it does steel. And I think it does up to 1/4-inch thick steel. But my God, you better put your earplugs on and earmuffs on top of those, because this thing just screams cutting through it. It does it, and it does it pretty damn good. But yeah, it's almost like cutting a piece of wood when you're moving along. Pretty awesome. Actually, sparking, not that bad, really. If it's sparking, it means you should probably put a new blade on. But usually it's pretty good, and it leaves you got metal chips coming out at you too. It's pretty wild, and they look blue. It's pretty it's something else watching one of these. Yeah, this is the one I used right here. This one, the Milwaukee metal cutting circular saw. This guy is awesome to use. And then it's got a little storage thing it tries to catch the chips in, and you have to empty that out every once in a while. If you're going to buff a car, got to go either hand or random oscillating. Yeah, maybe stay away from the grinder with the buffing attachment on that. But yeah, this metal cutting saw, this thing's awesome. Okay. And this only comes in, the metal cutting saw, I think, only comes in corded. I don't think you can get cordless. What else we got here? Yeah, reciprocating saw, that's always a handy thing to have. You can do wood or metal with it. Pretty good. I mean, sometimes it's too big for where you need to get into, so you can really hurt yourself bad with this thing, especially if it catches and it kicks back on you. So you got to be extra careful with the reciprocating saw. Really, you really got to lean into it, and so it doesn't hurt you. Have a good grip, and make sure you got the right blade for it and everything like that. You don't want to use a metal blade on wood or a wood blade on metal. But they'll have all sorts of cutting blades to use. They even have ones called like demolition blades, which will cut through a bunch of all sorts of stuff, nails in wood and stuff like that. You just go through it like butter. What else we got for power tools here? I know the regular skill saws. Especially I have a battery powered one that has like a laser on it to help guide you. So that's pretty handy. "90-degree drill." Pretty sure that's what this is. Yeah, it might be. 90-degree drill, so it's handy for if you don't have a lot of room to get into. Just use the old 90-degree one. This one looks like it's got a removable chuck. Huh. Oh, a quick change maybe. Yeah, you don't even need a chuck key or anything like that. You just tighten it up by hand. Okay. You love the Project Farm comparison episodes on different blades? Okay. And they're out there for a reason. You gotta definitely pick the right one for the right application. What else we got here? Big Ryobi brand. So I myself, I have Ryobi for my home stuff, but at work I use DeWalt. And I'm pretty happy with it. It seems to be okay. I do need to get some bigger batteries for the DeWalts though, because I think we only got like the smallest ones you can get. I'd like to get myself a nice big 4 amp hour one or something like that. It's usually Diablo for that balance of price and cutting everything. Yeah, for sure. Jigsaw, Makita. Yeah, Jigsaw come in handy. Same thing. Wood or metal. Gotta go slow though, like because you'll wreck that blade in a hurry. You try to push too hard. Let the blade do the work. Just hang on to the machine and push it, and just let the weight of your hand push it along. Don't force it. Otherwise, you're going to wreck that blade, and then you'll be going through them, and you're wondering why. The new DeWalt batteries have an indicator that shows you approximate charge level. There you go. It's always better than guessing. At least you can be like, oh, how much is in it? Oh, there we go. It's like why weren't they doing this the whole time to help us out, eh? Oh, is that a battery-powered chainsaw? Yeah, it looks like it. Well, it says it's brushless anyway, so that must be. There you go, Blaine. Battery-powered chainsaw man. He's brushless. 16-inch bar on it. That's pretty good. Cut down a tree with that, maybe, eh? Buck it up into a couple cords. That's handy. My the pack I bought came with a small chainsaw as well, so a little Ryobi chainsaw I have. Used it maybe 3 times. Nah, not a lot to do not a lot of trees to cut down in the city, so mostly for helping people out when they have to cut down some stuff. You need one of those? Buy one for Halloween. You make it your costume. Dress up as Chainsaw Man. The best thing about that is nobody can hear you coming until it's too late. What do we got here? I don't recognize that brand. Performance Power Tool Product Design Group. Oh. The city gets really upset when I start cutting trees at the fire. What? I just need some firewood. You guys aren't using them, are you? Or when you try to look for that one fir tree in wintertime for your house. I'm just going to go down to the park and I'll be right back. So yeah, many different types of power tools to use. Just remember to be careful with them. You got to respect them. Otherwise, they will bite you. Quick story for you. I heard one of the guys where that used to work where I'm at now. He was using a miter saw, and he was doing his molding, and I think it was his last cut. So using the miter saw, you always bring it down with your right hand. Okay. Well, he reached across with his left hand to hold onto it, and he brought the saw down, and he cut his wrist. He almost cut his hand completely off, but it was just hanging on by the skin. So he pulled it back up into place, held it there, ran to his wife, and told her they have to go to the hospital. So they managed to reconnect the tendons and everything in his hand, but it wasn't like it was before. It wasn't as useful. So just this little simple thing like that. He was doing his last cut, and he reached across and he cut his hand off at the wrist. And it was that fast. And that's it. Your career, you're done. You've got an injury like that, you might as well retire, because you're not going to be able to work the same way you were before the injury. But yeah, pretty scary. Something like that happens, and it just happened so fast too. He didn't even realize it until he let go of the handle that it happened. Apparently, that's a problem in Germany right now. People are cutting trees on public land for firewood for the coming winter. Ah, yes. With all that going on right now. Yes. And weren't they laughing? Wasn't the German people or the German delegates laughing when someone was warning them about Russia cutting off the gas to them? Pretty funny, eh? When you can't even heat your house, you have to resort to, I don't know, burning the trees. How's that working out for their environmental plan? Yeah. You can tell I'm not too crazy about the hypocrites out there that are like, save the earth and the environment. And yeah, okay. Come up with a better idea. Come up with a plan. Don't just say we have to stop stuff, because how can you? You can't. You have to have it has to be a slow transition into something new. You can't just quit cold turkey. Otherwise, things like this are going to happen. You're going to have people going out, cutting down trees, using them as firewood. So it's poor planning on their part. Then we have machine tools. So after your power tools, you have machine tools. These are like your lathes, your milling machines, your shapers. If you haven't seen a shaper in action before, it's wild to watch that thing work. You have to be very careful, because it will, if you get your head in the wrong spot, it'll knock you out. There's got to be a picture of it or a video. A shaper machine tool. There you go. So that's sort of what that's what a shaper looks like. Come on, there you go. So at the bottom here is where the workpiece goes, and also your cutting implement. And all this thing does is it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it just moves along, and then it moves the bottom vise over each time. As soon as it takes a stroke, it goes back, and then the vise moves over a little bit. So it makes a nice flat surface, and it moves this along. But you gotta be careful. You get your head in the way, and then the end will pop you right on the head. So you gotta be careful. But I haven't used the shaper in about 25 years. Yeah, that's what it looks like right here. That's what it works like. Works just like that. You can see. So we'll take a skim. A cutting tool will take a skim of steel. They're usually, not too huge, but about that big. Kind of sort of like the scale with the guy standing there. But that is a handy machine. I don't know if it gets used a lot nowadays. I'd have to see you in a machine shop. But yeah, that is an excellent machine. And your typical milling machine, 2-axis, right? X and Y, and then the really fancy ones will do X, Y, and Z, or Z for our American friends. And then you're getting into the CNC machines, computer numerical controlled. You do all the programming for it, and then you've got it'll even swap out tools for you. This looks like it here. You'll have each tool will have a number as to what it is, and as long as it keeps going back in the same spot, you wouldn't have any problems. And then it comes and it can pick whichever one it needs and use it in its machining process. You can even get fancy drill presses. They're not just all belt driven nowadays. There's belt driven, there's gear driven. You can make it so that it has auto feed. You can even do tapping, threading on this. So on a drill press. So very, very useful machines. They've got a variety. They've been able to grow and evolve to do more things and to do it better. Yeah, drill press milling machines, abrasive saws. Got to be careful with those. Always wear a face shield. It's just a grinding wheel, or a cutoff wheel. So you got to be careful with those. A shear, you can have hydraulic ones or mechanical shears. They don't stop for nothing. You keep your hands out of there. But you can chop stuff like angle iron, flat bar, square bar, round stock. You can do just about anything in the shear there to cut it to size. Band saws, vertical band saws, horizontal band saws. A lot of them are really fancy. Some will have auto feed for the horizontal ones, and coolant will be piped into them to keep the blade free of debris, keep it cool. You can have auto feed so that it once it cuts one, it'll go raise up again. It'll feed the stock through, and then it'll cut again. And it's getting quite automated for those band, even just a simple thing like a bandsaw. Now, obviously, you're going to have specialized machines when you're out in the industry there, depending on where you're at, what you're going to do. Like gear cutting machines. You're going to have even the bench grinder. Bench grinder you got to be careful about. those wheels can be, if they're off balance, they can blow up. Those wheels are just susceptible, just like any other ones. They got to be in balance, otherwise there's going to be a lot of trouble. You got to be careful. So yeah, lots of machine tools out there. If there's anything that you guys have seen or you have heard of, CNC plasma tables. Thanks for reminding me, Godzillionaire. Yeah, I did work at a steel fab shop and we had a plasma table. Very cool. It was a water one, so you'd get the machine ready and then you'd bring the water up to cover the steel, so that would cut down on the noise and the smoke that was given off by the CNC cutting. But yes, that's how you got the most efficient use of your plates of steel, was with the plasma cutter. It could cut so close and so precise that all you were left with afterwards was just a thin skeleton of steel that was just tossed away. And then it would also be used for torch cutting as well. At least our machine was. It had 4 regular oxyacetylene torches, and you would use those for the thick steel, like 2 inches and up. So if you had to cut out like some eyes for some hydraulic cylinders, you'd go over, you'd punch them in, spread the torches out to the right size, width away from each other, and then hit go on the machine, and poof, off it would go. It would cut out the middle eye, and then it would go along the outside border, and there you go. You got you got it done. Water jet cutters. I never got to use water jet cutters. Haven't had any experience with those. CNC programs now allow you to nest plasma shapes to yeah, exactly. Using them, getting the most out of your plate usage, for sure. And that's a big thing with the prices of steel and everything going up. They want to get as much out of it as they can, and they do. I mean, that's an excellent machine as well. Plasma cutter. And some I heard even have, I haven't seen it, but some I've heard have swivel heads that will take into account the kerf, or the angle that happens when the plasma cutter cuts the steel. It won't be like straight up and down, nice square cut. Sometimes it's at an angle. So I think some of these newer ones will even angle the head so that it goes and get you a nice square cut, if you need that. Lathes can get pretty huge. I know there's some pretty big ones out there that for doing huge jobs. I haven't used any personally, but I know they're out there. I think the largest one I saw on like YouTube was like for a ship's crank, and they had that in a giant lathe. Yeah, that's... Oh. Okay, brake press. Some places will have brake presses. Pretty simple to use. Make sure you got the right die in there, first of all, depending on the radius of the bend you want, because that's what these will be used for. Brake press will be used for bending all sorts of plate, steel, and such to whatever form they need. Yeah, you can get up to, I think I've seen 400 ton. Oh, yeah, watch your hand situation. Yes. Yeah, keep them far away. There's the dead man switch, so you use that and push that down to activate it. So yeah, brake press. Also, there's a shear, and those things will take your hand off in a second. I know that for a fact. They Very sharp. I've had to change the blades on one before. They're very heavy. The one I had to do. 1 inch thick blades. And you have to make sure you measure the gap between them so that when they come together, they don't hurt or hit each other on the way down. They just have to get by one another for that shearing action. So that's another fun thing to try to do when you're underneath there, trying to get the blades lined up with the right clearance. But yeah, and they make quite the sound depending on if it's a 3/8 shear and you're doing the maximum it can do at 3/8, you're going to make quite the boom. It's going to sound like a shotgun going off. But they're all handy tools. Everything about these tools is makes your life a lot easier when you're on the job, depending on what you're doing. Yeah, they will definitely help you out. Okay. Anything else about machine tools? They've come such a long way. I can remember when one of the first shears I used was a mechanical one, and it would rotate, and when you hit the button, it would catch on the gear, and then it would come down and do its cycle, and that was it. But there was also no stopping it. So that is one of the oldest ones I was able to use. I'm glad that thing gave out when it did, and we got to get a new hydraulic one. So much more nicer. All right. Well, I think we had quite the good talk about all the kinds of different tools out there. I know there's more, but we only have a limited amount of time. We covered hand tools, and machine tools, and power tools, and measuring tools. I hope I was able to shed some light on some of these things to let you know that there is more out there. Those old mechanical stamps and punches were so loud. He said it hit the button and boom. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, and there's no stopping them either. That old punch we had, boy, oh boy, I tell you. It's like, you just about hated. You hated using the thing because you're like, here we go. Poof. Yeah, it was quite the experience. I'm glad I got to able to experience it, though. There's stuff that people just won't see anymore at places. And that's too bad. You should at least have the experience of seeing it in action. But yes. Machine tools. So, I'm glad we're able to have this chat today. I'm here every Tuesday for now, talking about stuff in the trades. Hope you found it interesting. I really like talking about it. It's been a large part of my life. I've been in the trade for over 25 years. I can tell quite a few stories about different things. We just got to find a topic and talk about it. That's all there is to it. On Saturday, I play some Game Boy Color. This time is Shantae. I've been doing that for the past couple Saturdays. I'm trying to get to the end. I'm almost there. So I've got one more boss to beat. And then I'll see what happens. On Sundays, I do anime chat. So pick a series or a show that I've watched recently and just talk about it. Give you the rundown on it. tell you that whether it's good or not good, or my thoughts on it. Sometimes I have a few clips from it. Not enough to get me in trouble, I hope, but we'll see how it goes. Yes, so this Saturday will be Shantae for the video game stream. Sunday will be the Magic Knight Rayearth OAV. And every Tuesday will be Trades Talk Tuesdays. Yeah, this week's anime series, Godzillionaire, Magic Knight Rayearth OAV from 1997. It's a little different than the TV series, Magic Knight Rayearth. And I will gladly point those out on Sunday when I'm on. That will be at 9 o'clock Mountain Time in the morning. Might be a little early for some of you, but that's the only time that I can stream. Well, I've had a really good time tonight. I hope you have as well. Just like to say, I appreciate everyone that stopped by. Blaine from Blaine's Escape Corner. Always glad to have you stop by. Godzillionaire, it was a pleasure seeing you in the chat. I like talking with you. Please make sure you hit that like button just to give me a little bit of notoriety. See if I can get some likes on it. Subscribe, tell your friends. I want to try to get I'm really working towards trying to get a group of tradespeople to come in and so we can have a chat. I want to hear about the jobs they've done, some of the projects they've seen, some of the things they've been involved with. I think it would be really neat to get a bunch of us together from different trades and chat it up about what we've seen, what we've done. It can't just be me out there. There's got to be more tradespeople out there. I know you're out there. And I know you guys have hobbies. I'm a tradesperson. I have hobbies. I watch anime. I play video games. There's got to be more of us out there. But if you have, if you like some other channels to enjoy, there's Pacific 414. There's Blaine's Escape Channel. There's Channel 66. There's DJ Ronnie G. There's the Anime Guy. There's the Nerdporeal Lifeform. And there's Punk Waddle at Floral from Under a Rock. I am out there on Twitter, and BitChute, and Odyssey, and Rumble, and streaming on Twitch now. So, trying to get out there on all the platforms. Hopefully everyone's enjoying it. I am your host, the Pop Culture Mechanic. And this is me wishing you a good night.